So this is the first video on how to build a commune or a tribe or a community, whatever you'd like to call it, a home, somewhere where you can wake up next to your neighbors and they're the people you love, the people you care about, people who have got your back. The first part that's very important and at the same time perhaps the most boring is the legal identity of your commune, of your company, of your tribe. It's really, really important that you get the good and the best company structure, something that's right, so that then you have less complexities in the long run. So from what I found, if you live in Britain, Hong Kong, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, many of the previously British occupied countries, or currently, a company limited by guarantee is the best for you. Now, before you click off and say, well, I'm not in one of those countries, this does not apply to me, there are a lot of similar structures in other countries that are very, very similar to a company limited by guarantee. And I'll explain what that is in a minute and what it looks like. So if you think of a regular company, one that has stocks, a company limited by guarantee is a company that does not have stocks. You cannot distribute wealth. Everything has to be non-for-profit or a charity. In our case, it will be non-for-profit because we can't really say that having this commune is for a charitable cause. It is for our own benefit. It's just not for profit. So I cannot take, as the leader, for example, a profit and a cut of what is earned. Reasons this is a really good structure, aside from that, is also because it means you can not be personally liable. So if something goes bad, the company is liable and not you. Someone does have to guarantee a small amount of money. It can be as small as $1 to say that if the company goes down, we will cover those fees. But that's just a small legal thing. You don't have to worry too much about that. Another benefit is it means if someone wants to leave the company, they cannot take a share of the company when they leave. So you're protected in the long run from, if someone wants to leave, they can't take a significant portion of money with them because they obviously couldn't take, say, a house they're living in with them away. And you don't have to compensate them. It's also really ideal for just owning land and everything that you sort of need to set up. And I sort of want to walk you through how to set one of these up. And it is a bit of a process, but there is a way that you can skip a lot of these steps if you stick around to the end. Company limited by guarantee setup. First of all, you have a form which comes with a fee of $503. Really sucks, I know. We'll start off with the member because a member is quite simple. A company limited by guarantee needs one member. And the member can do things like vote, but they don't really have to have many roles. It's a pretty simple job. They do have to guarantee some amount of money though. So if the company winds up or something goes wrong, that money can compensate for those losses. Most people when starting up will often nominate a single dollar, and you can do that too. There's not really any harm in doing that. It just means that they're going to have to forfeit a single dollar in the case that things go bad. You can put more money into that later, but that's essentially all they have to do. You just need one member. Directors. You need 3 directors, and they'll do things like have meetings and help regulate all the paperwork and policies and all that boring stuff. In the beginning, it can be pretty simple and informal as long as those meetings are kept with meeting minutes, which is basically, for those of you that don't know, a meeting minutes is pretty much just taking note of what happened during the meeting, what was discussed. Each director needs a director ID, which you can get from a government website with the abbreviation ABRS. For that, you need 2 forms of ID, and you should be able to get your director's IDs. You need three directors. I'd recommend friends or family or someone who would like to join you in this. You also need a constitution, which describes how your company operates, sort of the morals that it operates underneath, which later on I will recommend that you get someone else to write that for you, a lawyer. You can do this for a reasonably cheap price. You can get them to fill in almost all of these details for you. Secretary, I hope, is pretty self-explanatory. The secretary's job is to keep paperwork, make sure that they're reporting everything to the government, especially when it comes to money and taxes, is to ensure and make recommendations to the directors that they're doing things the way that they should be done. Note taking, very simple stuff. And it all sounds very confusing right now, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you leave them in the comments. To set up a CLG, which will be like the framework for our commune, it'll be the legal business. You also need an office. Now that sounds scary because, oh my God, I need to set up an office. I don't even have any money. I don't know what I'm doing. Nothing else is set up yet. And I can happily inform you that the office can be digital. So it can be not a real place, but you need some sort of registered office that says this is where we operate from. So that the government knows that if they need to contact you or if someone needs to contact you, this is where they can go. It's very important to avoid a lot of fees and a lot of regulations and a lot of other nasty stuff, that you make it appointment only. So people can't just walk in and request information. They just have to book an appointment. Once you have that sorted out, you can register the company through the ASIC. And I think that stands for Australia's Securities and Investments Commission. Pretty simple. There's a few things you need for that, and I promise we are getting to the end. Once you register through that, you will get an Australian company number, an ACN, and a company name, which is like your legal company name. Then to get that, you need to fill out a form from the Australian Australian Business Register, ABR. You don't need to know all these abbreviations. You don't need to know what they mean to get an ABN. And this is where the director details will come in, and you give them the directors' names and identifications, which you have gotten from filling in the form earlier from the ABRS. I know this is a lot to take in. And as well as that, you will need a list of like office activity, which is what you're doing in the office. So probably like managing resources, managing residents, basic things like that. You'll also need for an office insurance, really exciting stuff. That's probably going to cost you about $800 a year to make sure no one gets hurt. If something goes wrong, it'll be covered, hopefully. And then finally, you need an office address and a mailing address. If you remember, I said the office does not need to be a real office, so that can be a digital address. It can be a website. The mailing address can be something just like your home. It doesn't need to be a very special place. You don't need to have an office or an official post office box. It can just be your home address. And from there, your company. There is a lot of work involved in that. And I'm on my side there. And I'll slot you back in to my stand. And there's a lot of work involved in setting this up, and I'm still sort of piecing it together in my own head, and I will probably come and revisit this, but this is the beginning of setting up a company. You need that legal framework, otherwise you cannot buy that property. You can't set up any sort of contracts or anything of the sorts. But now going back to why it's beneficial, from here, if someone wants to join this commune, this tribe, they would not become a member, because members have rights for voting and they can collapse the company. They would be a resident. And the way this would likely work is that you would have a contract, a long-term contract that allows them to live in their home and modify their home and own a share of their home until eventually they decide they want to leave, or they want to pass on their wealth. And then if they own the house, if they've put money into it, you can legally reimburse them. And if they just want to rent, or if that's how you want to run things, or rent or just live in it but not own it, then they will not be compensated when they leave. And that's the basics. But if all that seems really complicated, you can skip a massive amount of those steps by going to a lawyer. And there's plenty of services that already do this. They're quite affordable. You might set you back probably at the most $2,000. You could definitely get them cheaper, probably can get them for about $1,000 at the moment, at least as of 2026, January, Feb. And what that'll do is you'll still have to get directors' IDs, and you'll have to explain to them what you want out of this company limited by guarantee. You have to explain to them that you want a community. But they'll write all of the, they'll write the constitution. They'll help set up all those fees and find you your business number. They'll help find you, what's the other one? Your company name, your Australian business number, and your Australian company number. And if I'm being honest, it's so worth the hassle. It's so not worth the hassle. It's just worth buying. Spending that $2,000, it's a lot of money, and I have no idea how much this is going to cost in the end, or how we can find funding for you to get something like this started. But if I could have some final words, it's going to be boring. There's a lot of work setting this up, and you need all the help you can get. You might know a friend who does law. If you do, contact them, beg them to help you. But it's going to be a slog, and I'm really hoping that this is the worst of it. I've never been a huge fan of very legal and finicky stuff like this. I much prefer the side of working with people and designing what it's going to look like and how it operates. I don't like having to worry about those legal constraints, but unfortunately they do have to be there, and they can help a lot when things get into a pickle, which inevitably we will run into some issues. But I hope this has been helpful. This was filmed very last minute. There's no script. As you can see, I have written stuff on a whiteboard. I wrote that up last night. It's quite the collection of information. It's a little bit messy, but I'm hoping that gives you some idea. If it was really confusing, please leave a comment. I would love to go into greater depth, or break it down, or slow down, or explain it in a different way. Thank you so much for listening. If there's another part you want to visit next, if you have a preference, let me know, and I'll visit that next. Otherwise, next I'm probably going to start visiting the logistics of what it takes to be a leader, and like the skills, because there's a lot of skills you need there to run a commune and to lead it, at least until you get more help from other people. Thank you for listening.